Hey everybody, this is Jon Croft, Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and Rebecca's on the way. We're going to talk about when culture is divided. What do we do? So, this is, let's see, March 22nd, and the reason we're talking about culture being divided is that today, supposedly, Candace Owens has been eliminated from the Daily Wire. Not sure how, if she left or if she was fired. That's not the top story here, but it's a symptom of a larger problem, which is that one side of the coin is always dividing, and the other side of the coin is always uniting. So which side do you think is winning? Is the conservative side winning, or is the Democrat liberal side winning? When they continually unite and we continually divide, who do you think is going to win? So who do you think benefits when there's always someone on the conservative side infighting with someone else on the conservative side of media? And that means our side continually divides and continually has these infights. And I don't know what we're fighting for. Are we fighting for a side? Are we fighting for rulership of our side? As though we're supposed to only have one network, and that's it. So, yeah. Oh, are you muted?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Well, you know what's been going on, but
Yes.
yeah, so I thought I would call this episode When Culture is Divided.
Yeah.
And the reason is that because of what happened today with the Daily Wire.
Right.
The Daily Wire is just endemic of a larger problem. It's not only the Daily Wire. You know, before this, Stephen Crowder also tried to divide and conquer the Daily Wire. And this happened like a year ago. And so you're going to see every single conservative media outlet get attacked by another conservative. And here's the reason that they'll get attacked by another conservative, because if they were attacked by a liberal, everybody would know whose side to be on. Everybody would know if you're a conservative, you're going to stand with the conservatives, and if you're a liberal, you're going to stand with the liberals. So nothing changes in that military. Like, let's say you're looking at this as a military kind of like conflict, right? If you are just coming against the other side continually, everybody knows who to fight with and who to stand with and who to fight against. It's the people that are not in your military. It's the people in the other military. It's very simple, right? But when it's not so simple, when it's complicated, when you have infighting in your own military, who do you stand with? Who do you defend? Do you stand with the lawyers, which might be the judicial system? Do you stand with the legislators? Do you stand with the executive branch? Do you stand with the church? Do you stand with, the small people, the peasantry? Do you stand with the merchant class? Who do you stand with? Like, who are you loyal to? And so, this continues to divide as you atomize your own society and say, well, I stand with merchants. I don't like peasants, because at least merchants have money. And then I can survive with my family. We can at least have money and trade and all these things. This is what it does to your society, is it atomizes your society. And then it makes you easy to conquer. But if you say instead, if you're smart and you say, listen, we all need each other. Like, the merchants need the peasants, and we need the aristocracy and the nobility as well. And we need the soldiers and the military, and we need the church, and we need them. We all need each other because why? Because we're a community, because we all love each other and appreciate each other. Now you know you're in a society that's unified. It's loving, it's unified, and it teams together and survives, right? And so this is represented by the generous spirit of those German people who protected Jews under their floorboards. Like that's the same spirit. The people who will stand up against an authoritarian regime or tyrannical government and say, no, we're unified. Like you're not going to divide us. We're going to defend people we don't even agree with on stuff because they're part of our community. And that's out of love and appreciation and generosity and kindness. And so you have to actually be a really, really religious person to believe that. You actually have to believe in God in many ways to believe that. And so when you don't believe in God, when you're a godless society, you can be easily divided based on your skin color or based on your sex or based on, are you part of the merchant class? Like, are you part of all these groups? So the people who accuse the Daily Wire of being con Inc., they are not generous. They're not part of a community. They believe only in the merchant class or only in the peasant class. They don't fight for this community. They fight for themselves and their own class of people. So they've successfully been divided and atomized by a narrative which asks you to fight amongst yourselves. It asks you to say, well, those people aren't like you, and they don't really care about you, so therefore you should fight against them. And so this is why people are fighting against either Candace or Ben Shapiro, is because they've been fooled by this narrative that seeks to divide our society so they can easily conquer us. It's actually quite simple.
Yeah.
It's right in the art of war. I mean, it's War 101. But people just keep falling for it. They keep falling for this hate the other person that doesn't look like you narrative. That doesn't make a difference when you're talking about a community. A community isn't about that. A community is actually about loving your neighbor, even if they're different from you, and learning from your neighbor.
Yeah.
Right? So it's generous, it's kind, it has principles. And so these principles, which are larger than your skin color or the fact that you're a merchant or whatever, it's larger than all those things because it recognizes your common humanity. And it recognizes you were made in the image of God. It believes people are made in the image of God. So all these people, whether it's an unborn child or whether it's a slave or whether they're a woman or a man or whatever race or nationality they're from, all those people were made in the image of God. So that's a society that cannot be divided, you see, because they're all united by their humanity. So they can't be divided into little groups that atomize and destroy each other. But a society like ours, which is being corrupted from the inside and divided into little chunks, can easily be destroyed from without. So you just take out each group. You eventually just take out each group one by one. And so, but the truth is, if you've studied economics, for example, each different economic class of people actually need the other. And so whether you're talking about economics or politics or religion or what have you, it doesn't even make sense to atomize. It doesn't even make sense to divide because your society just becomes weaker the more you do that. But if you're speaking philosophically or religiously or spiritually, it's much more profound than that. It's more profound than just, is your society going to succeed? It's about how do you find wholeness in a community? And that comes from actually listening to neighbors that are different from you. That actually comes from the Candace Owenses listening to the Ben Shapiros, and the Ben Shapiros listening to the Candace Owenses. That's the kind of people that form a community. And so because our communities are being destroyed, notice it's only the conservative communities that are being destroyed. It's not liberal communities. It's not Democrat communities. They're thriving and growing and getting stronger. And they unite. They will unite if Joe Biden cannot teach you one thing. He can teach you that a Democrat will unite behind anyone if they follow their beliefs. So if they follow their beliefs, now what conservative on the Republican side, what conservative all has the same beliefs as conservatives? They don't even believe in conservatism. They believe in all different things.
Yeah.
So it's another representation of a divided group of people. Like they don't even agree on conservative issues. So I mean, even the anti-abortionists, they are now divided between abolitionists and pro-lifers. So and I'm an abolitionist because I believe from the beginning it should have been abolished. So I would have been an abolitionist, anti-slaver. I would have just wanted to abolish it from the beginning because it's just wrong. So that's because I look at it from a moral level. Why would you morally put up with immoral stuff? That's just not moral. You don't put up with it, you end it. But you also teach people why you end it. It's just immoral and wrong. So a lot of people just don't have this kind of grounding in facts and in morals and in ethics. And so when you don't have this grounding, you can easily be angered by small things, right? You can have Christians that are angry at each other for their eschatology. These are small things as part of the faith. It's not relevant to your salvation as it comes to how Christ returns back to the earth. That's not relevant to your salvation. He can come back however he wants, as far as I'm concerned. He's in charge, we're not. So it doesn't matter what we say about it, really. You can interpret it however you want, as long as the gospel is preached. Right? So as a Christian, it's ridiculous to divide with your fellow believer over these small issues.
Yeah.
And you'll hear people lie about it too and be like, no, this is actually relevant to whether you're saved or not. That's absolutely a lie. It doesn't have to do with your salvation. It's these same kinds of people who will swallow a gnat, but choke on it's the other way around actually. They will swallow a camel but choke on a gnat. So it's this nonsense. It's totally nonsense.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is happening in American communities all around, and it's just very sad. I feel like I interrupted you. Were you going to say something?
No, I wasn't going to say anything. No.
Sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's a very interesting topic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's just kind of sad because I feel like people don't get it when it should be like blatantly obvious to people that if they're fighting with their fellow conservatives over something like which media outlet they should watch, it's totally self-defeating, right? I mean, one conservative media outlet will be good on doing one thing, and another one will be good at doing another thing. Why does it matter that I don't like the way they do this other thing, which is irrelevant to that? Why am I always trying to find out if a conservative is like on the level? Why don't you just look at what they say in their news reports? Like, that's their job. Their job is to give good news. So why are you thinking about like, oh, conservative incorporated, they're so criminal and corrupt? What are you talking about? Why don't you provide some facts? So there's no facts, there's just a bunch of allegations, and as a result they can make this media firestorm that accuses someone of what kind of bad stuff? I don't know. Well, I just don't like them. I mean, these people are worse than the Democrats and liberals. They're worse than them. I mean, at least the Democrats will make an argument. Like, well, this is against, like some policy we want to do. We want to do this policy, and they want to destroy that policy, so we want to stop them. Well, that's at least a rational statement. But if we're just kind of infighting because we don't like somebody, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
You're not helping anybody.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help Candace Owens, for example, to just support her and never listen to the other side and have nothing to do with the issues. Like the issues are what matter. You know, instead of like this whole preference, like I prefer this person over that person. Based on what? You know?
Yeah, and it's possible for people to, cease working together on good terms.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't
absolutely.
have to be some kind of dramatic story.
Thank
It
you.
can literally just be like this person was ready to move on. And just because they're ready to move on doesn't mean there was anything wrong with where they were at. It just was time for a change, for things to change. It doesn't have to be a side taking. It doesn't have to be like, like some kind of witch hunt. Like, let's see who did what was like,
Yeah.
who's at fault here and who's in trouble and who's doing,
Oh my goodness, I feel like I just took a trip back to like 15 years ago when people were rational people. Thank you for like sounding like a normal, rational human being.
I have some more. I have some more of that.
Wow, please.
Like there's this thing called taking the high road. And it's where, like, when you see someone who's acting, just really immature, and instead of like lashing out at them and meeting them where they're at in their immaturity and being like, oh yeah, I can be just as immature as you. Instead, you can say, I'm not going to partake in that behavior because that behavior does not seem above board, and in fact I can actually make a choice to take the high road, the road that is not the dramatic road, not the witch hunt road, not the he said she said let's take sides,
Yes.
house divided road. I'm not going to take that road. I'm going to take the I believe the best in people, and I want to support the community. And I don't know, let's say worst case scenario, there's some kind of scandal, right? Well, how about instead of dragging that person through the mud, instead let's just all openly acknowledge that there's a scandal and what can be done, and let the person speak on their behalf and apologize with
What?
with the hope, with the intention of forgiving that person. And
Wow. That is insane. How would anyone ever come to that conclusion that we should do that?
Yeah, and it's weird, right? And
That would be would actually be useful, which is not what we do here.
And then just acknowledging that person, can move on, can grow and mature from their mistake and move on.
No.
Maybe in a different capacity, but maybe not. Maybe
people don't want that. What are you talking about? That would be high road. What are you talking about, high road? We all know that when people get on their high horse, they're on the high road, right? That's what the high horse is. Isn't that what somebody told me somewhere it was on Urban Dictionary? Where was that? When you're on your high horse, you're taking the high road, right? Right, people on social media, you're taking the high road, right? Yeah. No, I think people have totally forgotten what that means. They don't know what that is. They don't know what that is. I think the last person who did that lost. Okay, I don't want to get too political. I better not get too political. I don't want to talk about that. No, I've seen many people take the high road honestly, and people just throw them under the bus for it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You can't. It's possible to. That's a risk you take of being thrown under the bus for taking the high road. And that just kind of makes me think of Jesus, of course.
Yeah.
Who was the ultimate? Was thrown under the bus in the most ultimate way, and complete way.
Royally.
But he took the high road 100%, and people said, save yourself, and they lashed out at him with insults, but he didn't retaliate, and I don't know. I've just always been drawn to, like, what's the better way to respond? Like, what's the greater good? And, I think there's something in our flesh that wants an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But it's not the better word, the better word is the man who laid down his life because he decided while we were still sinners that we were worth dying for.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just dropped my mic.
Oh, you did?
I'm done.
I was like, wow, you did drop the mic there. That was good. It's so much so that I literally was like, I stopped thinking because I was like, this is just so profound. No, I'm just thinking about like all the hatred out there on social media, because I continually am reminded of the fact that social media is not a community. Even though we pretend that it is, we pretend that like people, like they will do collabs, they'll hang out, they'll talk, they'll interview each other, and then they're having a fallout like this. And so it's like, I do not believe that it's a community. I don't believe it's genuine. I don't believe it's authentic. I think, and this is why I wanted to talk about when culture is divided, what do we do? And so let me tell you about why this podcast was late today and the lesson that it teaches us. So it's kind of a long story. I don't want to get into the whole story, but we've been having car troubles for a while. And what would happen is our car would have this weird problem and leave us stranded somewhere quite often. And we would bring it to our mechanic, and our mechanic is pretty cool. He's very nice. They're very cheap. They get used parts quite often. So they're like one of these like really thrifty, smart mechanics, right? And so I really respect him because he'll like give me something that's like $100 cheaper than anybody else. And he's like, the only problem is we might not do it very quickly. Like, we don't always have the mechanic here or whatever, or we don't always have everything lined up to do this. And so I'll be patient, right? And you remember this, honey. It was maybe 6 months ago. I think it was it the Mazda or the Honda? I don't remember. We have a Mazda, we have a Honda. One of our cars was out of commission for literally 6 months. I mean, it was half a year just waiting for parts. And then they would get parts, and then they would break, or something would go wrong, and then they would have to get more parts. And it was like this for 6 months. And part of it was supply line issues. That's what he said. And so part of it was just like they couldn't get these parts. So the supply chain issues was an issue. Well, more recently, it was 3 months. We had to wait 3 months for something. And then now it's been a month and a half waiting for our Honda to get fixed. And while our Honda was fixed, then my Mazda again had another transmission issue. So now the Mazda's out of commission and the Honda's out of commission, and it's just very inconvenient timing. It wasn't like something we weren't anticipating to some degree, but the way it happened was the Honda was supposed to be done. And then I could basically like push my Mazda into the driveway, and they would take it and, okay, we got your Mazda. Now here's your Honda. You can have your Honda back. No, it didn't work that way. I did basically barely drive it into their lot. Yeah. It's barely surviving. And then I'm like, okay, can I have the Honda now? Because you said it's done, right? Oh, it's not done, actually. This has actually happened numerous times, so I should have been wise to this, frankly. But it's kind of like Lucy, right, with the football, and she's like to Charlie Brown, she's like, come on, Charlie Brown. Come on, kick the football. No, I won't pull it away this time. Everything will be fine. So that's the only problem with this mechanic, is like they're so great. They're very kind. They're very like the kind of people you really like. And you want to like them. And they do a good job. And they get you cheap parts. But then you have to wait. And what's even worse than waiting is that he will say, no, it'll be done tomorrow, or it'll be done by next week, or something like that. And then he won't call me or tell me what's going on. And then when I call him, he's like, it's not done. So, and every time he tells me that, it's like, okay, like, I like you, we're like, you're a likable person. You're being honest with me. I know you don't keep in track, you don't communicate. That's not a huge deal. I've known people like this. It doesn't mean they're insincere. Well, maybe he's sincerely just bad at managing his company. Maybe that's what's going on. But suffice to say, my daughter was stuck at school because of this. She needed a ride home from another parent at the school. We don't have a car over the weekend. He's not going to be in the shop during the weekend fixing the car. Nothing can happen. This is no ride for my daughter to school on Monday. So it's like all these things happened, and then, but you know what? What I'm talking about is community. And this is what you do when culture is divided. You have to dig down deep into your community and find out who it is that's going to help you in these situations. So you have to make calls. You have to call in favors. You have to appeal to people on a human level, not on a self-promotional level, right? You're not like saying one more time, oh, it's going to work one more time. Like, you can't be Lucy to people. You can't continually be like, no, I really care about you. No, this is really going to happen. And then you back away. You don't commit, right? But what real community does is it's there for you when you're really having a hard time. So real community doesn't abandon you in the lurch, right? Real community shows up. So what did I do? I texted a bunch of my friends and told them what is going on. Like I texted like 20 people. And I got 3 or 4 answers. Here's what I got in the community of God here. My dad told me he can't help me now, but he's in the works to help. He says he loves me, right? My friend Luke had a conversation with me. He says he loves me, right? He says he's praying. My friend Jesse says, oh, I hear you need to get groceries during this difficult time, which is true. It's another reason I texted out. I'm like, we don't even have, it's like I said, it's really bad timing. Like we needed a bunch of things to happen, and so he's like, I'm going to come over and we're going to go to the grocery store together. So he came over, we went and got groceries. It just took half an hour. Like he comes back and then he has dinner with us. We make him dinner. So, and then somebody shows up, Dave, he's like, here's some keys to this car you can borrow, right? Keep it surprised what's going on. Like, we talked about insurance for a second, right? It's not a huge deal, right? Like we're both insured. And so it's like, these things have been taken care of. And now I respect his car. I'm going to be very careful. And my friend Jesse, we got to have a long belated conversation. Me and Luke got to have a long belated conversation. And this all came out of, right, a real community. That's what the Lord can provide for you, is a real community when you are a genuine, honest, genuine person. And you really care for people. And so people out in Wonderland internet world, like you guys are trying to make a buck and get clicks. This is not real community. Like, this is not how it works. What you need is actual local people who will support you. And I don't mean support you like they're gonna like hand you a bunch of money if you're poor. Like that's good and useful. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and sometimes you need that. But that's not the point. The point is they give you real help that's actually going to help you with your situation, right? It's like actual medicine, which doesn't always taste good, right? Like it's a little humiliating to have someone take you to the grocery store and help you out. Like in some ways, right? But in another way, it's like I actually got to have a conversation with him. It was, like I said, it was a long belated conversation with Jesse. I hadn't talked to him in like 2 months. And he's one of my good friends. So, I mean, we got to talk and get frozen pizzas together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how often do you do that with your friends? You don't always get a chance to do that, right? So it felt kind of like an honor to me. And then we got to have him over after that for meatloaf. So it's like, and then we talked about movie ideas. I got to tell him my movie ideas more. And he was actually really impressed. Like I hadn't had a chance to sit down with him with my movie ideas yet. I talked to him about a few things, but where did I meet these guys, right? I met, and by the way, my pastor also said that they could support us with funds if we need them. I said, we don't need funds. We just need prayer for these cars so they can get done. So he was like on the level with me. And that was pretty cool. But obviously my pastor is my pastor. Let's see. Luke, I knew from filmmaking, and he helped me to make a short film called Goldenfoot. You can see it on YouTube right now if you want to. He was the writer, a comedy writer. It takes skill to be a comedy writer, by the way. I don't know. But so I knew him from that. We're both fellow believers and filmmakers. So there's that. Jesse, I met from a Bible study. So a Bible study called Salt and Light, where you talk about the Bible like you talk about a select reading from the Bible. And as you do that with people, you really get to know them. Like you really get, like what is God telling them about the Bible? And what is God telling you about the Bible? And so you have a conversation about it. And everybody is genuinely right and genuinely wrong. Like everybody. So that's a really great conversation. It used to be when I was younger, people didn't have very good Bible studies because they would do it like they're a teacher, right? Like you could sit down and listen and have your notepad ready, and I'm going to tell you my great wisdom. Like I'm the guru up on top of the mountain. And you actually don't get a lot from that. Like you get a lot of personality worship from people in churches, and it's just kind of boring after a while. It's like I know everything about this guy's personal life. They don't know anything about me, and we're not having a conversation, and we're not getting a nuanced approach to the Bible. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is what you have to do is meet people on the level, right, in an honest situation, and you can actually get to be friends with them from that. And then if you text them or call them or have a conversation with them, like they know who you are. They know you're the real deal. They know you're a real person. You're trying to accomplish something in life, right? You talk about what you're trying to accomplish with them. And then I think a lot of people will be willing to help you if they know you're a real person, right? That if they don't know that, if you're not opening up to them and being vulnerable with them, talking about what you're really trying to do, actually getting to know people, especially on a spiritual level, right?
Yeah.
Why would they help you? And why would you even help them too? Like you can take risks with people, sure. But I think most people are smart enough to not just fall for all those risks. It's it can actually be dangerous, to help some people. So, and that's why you have to meet people in a community that's on a normal level. On a rational level where they're not getting something from you and you're not getting something from them, right? It's not a transactional relationship. It's like a regular human relationship where you're just talking to someone face to face. And you have nothing to gain from this, and they have nothing to gain from you except what? Authentic relationship. Like that's what you have to gain from this. And they, of course, can gain the same thing. So nobody's a leg up on each other. Like you both have an opportunity to get something great from this. This is true community. And so what I'm trying to tell people is it's no wonder that these media organizations are dividing, that they're infighting, that they're having difficulty. It's because they are embroiled in internet relationships which are not real relationships. And so they're being taken away from the roots, which, it's going to nourish them and moisturize them and help them to grow up into a strong tree that doesn't need to just have internet arguments with people. You don't have to do that. Like, why would you do that anyway? It feels like you're chopping a limb off your tree every time you do it anyway. It's painful. It's like, why would I want to argue with people? Like, that doesn't even sound enjoyable. So, and you're not accomplishing anything by owning them in an online argument. It doesn't accomplish anything. So the way I use the internet and the way I want to use the internet is to talk about accomplishing things more. Now, it's true that in the past, I have engaged with, ideas on the internet. And sometimes I'll get what I think is a profound idea, and I'll just put it out there. And I also sometimes, I'll be honest, and I'm in the wrong here, but I'll sometimes try to own people in conversations. And you know what? I've fallen for the same thing. So I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else. I've fallen for the same kind of stimulation that the internet provides. It's like a heroin hit, right? It's like a hit of heroin where you're getting this stimulation and you're like, you know what? That felt good to tell someone how I really felt. But the truth is, you could just do that on a sheet of paper by yourself. Like, you don't have to actually involve other people in all of your owning other people. Like, instead, turn all those interesting thoughts into a diary or a list of interesting thoughts, which can become something like a book one day. Like, make this useful. Instead of telling the world all your dirty secrets and your dirty laundry, you should, take all that and whip it into something useful. Take that energy. And here's the truth, and this is something God's been teaching me. The word discipline for me has been a hard word most of my life. And this is because my dad is like a man's man kind of guy. Like, he teaches these kinds of principles and often annoys you, like with this kind of like, no, this is what men do. Men do this kind of thing, and you're just kind of like, oh right, okay, men do this kind of thing. You were an anthropologist, you know about men. So, and I'm not saying I disregarded his messages. I'm just saying that there's this profound idea that I got from his messages, which was about discipline, self-discipline, self-control. This is also a biblical idea, but my point is, what I've been learning is that discipline is a day-to-day practice that you do where you do not get a lot of immediate rewards. You just kind of do it because you're supposed to do it. You have to do it. And so if you take the habit of going on social media and you turn that into a discipline to write for half an hour a day, it's like the equivalent of investing your money into something that can make you a millionaire in 10 years rather than throwing your money down a pit. Think about it. Like, you could be building a skill, you could be turning your ideas into something that's actually monetizable, far more monetizable than some social media account. Okay, I know people will tell you, oh, you can whip this into like a fan base. Well, not if you're yelling at everybody. Sure, there's the people who enjoy the clickbaity stuff and they're like trying to create enemies online and they're somehow working this into money. I'm sorry, I just don't think that's a way to live. It's just not a very healthy way to live. And what's more, there's the larger lesson I was speaking about, which is community and unity, right? So you find unity in your culture when you have community. So I know I didn't mean to turn that into some rhyming thing. That was unintentional. But the fact is, when things go south, I don't care what way they go south. It doesn't matter if it's an economic downturn or you lose your job or, whatever it is going on geopolitically in the world, it doesn't matter. When things go south, what you're most going to wish you had was some kind of community where if you don't have solar power, your friend does. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have a generator, your friend does. If you don't have a way to defend yourself, your friend does. And if they don't have some of those things, you do. And where you can help each other. And you can start now, if you want, to start preparing for something like that with that community. You can be like, let's work on something together, this little project. And so you do that. And the project could be like, for me, I'm a filmmaker, so the kind of projects I work on are like, let's shoot a film, like let's make a film. Or let's work on this show or something. So it's not always end of the world scenario stuff. Sometimes it's like, community helps you in a variety of ways. So, but mostly it gives you friends that you can just kind of like dote on. In the meantime, you lose your car or something and you need some help to go to the groceries and they give you help. Like in the meantime, it's very practically useful as well. So, and you know what? I'm going to be there for those people too. So in the future, if they need a car or they need whatever, like text me, man, like I'll help you out. So that's kind of how it works, right? It's kind of like you go to lunch with someone and they cover your bill and you're like, I'm going to cover your bill next time. Like that's just how it works. So that's the kind of thing community does. And you have to get used to doing that. Like, and you also have to get used to like listening to people and their opinion instead of like always spouting your own views. Sometimes like take a practice, take a chill, relax, and say, I'm not even going to give my opinion in this conversation. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna practice self-control. And I'm gonna go, you know what? I'm gonna just listen. Like imagine that, right? Especially in a relationship where you're just used to both of you guys just chit-chatting, right? And maybe you feel like this, maybe you've talked over this person a few times and they haven't felt heard. What kind of a difference is it going to make to your relationship if you can just say, you know what, I'm just going to listen to you. I just want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. And see what kind of impact that has. Because what you say after that event is, I care about you. Like, and I'm sorry that I hurt you before. And so I want to know that what you say matters. So, how is this going to impact not just you in your own personal life, but your community in general? Like this could be your wife or your husband, right? It doesn't have to just be someone in your larger community. This could be something where you grow stronger together and let people know that, you know what, I don't care about the big wide world out there. People have mistreated you. I'm not going to do that to you. Like, I care about you. So, you know what, you have to fight this whole idea that if you have a difference of opinion with someone, that you have to divide with them on that. Like, that's not necessarily a point of contention. It's just a fact that you're a different human being. And we're all different human beings. So why do we have to completely focus on our differences, but not on our likenesses? Not what unites us. It's just a matter of your perspective. So why would your perspective continue to be about dividing instead of uniting? It's something to think about, folks. Like, we continually are trapped in this mindset that somebody has to totally please us and give us some kind of subservience to our own belief and view, when that's just not the case. Like, it's incredibly selfish of us. Like, we need to learn to listen, and we need to learn to give, and realize that if you give, the stuff you're getting back is so much greater. Like, if you love, the stuff you're getting back is so much greater. And not only are they gonna, like, even if they don't reciprocate, right? You know you did your best. Yeah. And you know that you care about them, and they know you care about them too. And they just don't know how to care back. Like, they don't know how to do that yet. But that's actually how we teach people these things, is by practicing it and modeling it. So you actually have to take a risk and be the first one to do it. And then if you lose that relationship, that's fine. But, you're learning all along the way. And they're learning too. And so somebody has to do the right thing to model it. So eventually it gets learned and it becomes habit. And then everyone is giving more, right? And I don't mean that in kind of like a utopian way that's silly and unrealistic. I mean that more people are giving than what was happening before, because there's a sort of a reproductive thing happening here where people keep reproducing these normal behaviors. And there has to be someone to stop that habit of reproducing bad behaviors and calling them normal. And we need someone to stop it and be like, no, this is just not normal. Actually, we need to love each other and accept each other even though we're different. Like, that's actually what we have to do if we want to survive.
Yeah.
There's just no alternative to that. So that's where a multicultural society came from anyway. That's where Americanism came from. And if we can't do that anymore, then America is dead. It's dead because it's dead as an idea. The very idea that we can be a society based on freedom, right? And all these other things like our nationality and our race and our religion, all that stuff was secondary, right? We united on the concept of God-given human rights, right? You don't have to believe in God to believe that. You just believe that something gave you these rights that is above your neighbor. And that means your neighbor can't take it away from you. And so you have rights, and those rights mean we have to respect each other. Right? That's what it means. So if you don't do that, if you can't unite on that principle, then I'm sorry, but you don't have rights. And that means someone can take them away. And so, because we've stopped agreeing on this principle, this basic principle, it means that these other secondary things have become the primary thing to us. Our identity has become the primary thing. And so we continually atomize and atomize and atomize. And so we don't have any longer this empathy for each other in our community. And here's the reason I'm talking about this, is because God blessed me today with a community. It taught me that I have a community. And that means a lot to me. So even though I was having a rough time the last few days, we've been praying a lot, and God came through and taught us that we have a community. And so we want to share that with you, right? Because community is how culture gets created. It doesn't really come from just striving, making a holiday, talking about language, talking about stories. It comes from communities, because that community has honest conversations about all these stories, about all these things. They can hash it out. They can say, this is why I prefer Star Wars to Star Trek or something. If you don't have a community, you really can't do that. You're just talking down to other people. So I've talked about this before. This is the creators, the curators, and the community. And if you have those things, right, and the community is kind of like an umbrella over these things. But it's a third very important element. So community is what holds these things together and makes it function. If you don't have that, then the artists, the creators, aren't going to have a strong community behind them, helping fund their projects, believing in their work as an artist before they make it, like giving them wisdom so they can infuse that into their story. That doesn't come from just yourself. That comes from knowing people, having difficult situations, reading, like having real conversations about stuff in life. That's where that comes from. Art just doesn't grow on trees. It comes from human beings that have experiences. And if you're having weak experiences living in a basement, you're not going to have great art. It's just not going to come from you. So this is part of the community, right? The community supports you. You know, if you're going to go to Kilimanjaro and do something great, who's going to watch your cat while you're gone? So you can pretend like you can do everything yourself, but the sad fact is you can't. You can't do it all yourself. And if you keep dividing with people over nonsense, you're not going to have a film company anymore either. You're not going to be able to make great art. You're not going to be able to curate art. And you're not going to have anyone protecting you if you get canceled online. So you have nothing. You have nothing. You thought you had clicks, and therefore you thought you had influence. But the truth is, all of that was smoke. You have nothing if you have no real community. So you need to get your heart straight. Go meet with some people. Apologize if you have to. Okay? You need to do that. You know, Jesus said, sometimes you can't even pray and God won't even hear you if you don't get it right with your brother first. Right? That's what God says. So if we can't get right with our brother, it's no wonder our prayers aren't being answered. God tells us that. So when you're not working with your neighbor, hey, guess what? God's not going to listen to you. Okay? You're not being obedient and loving your neighbors yourself. So you need to get to the hard work, which is building community. Being a real person on the level means being honest, being willing to be wrong. I said it. Be willing to be wrong. Okay? Let people be right. Be willing to be teachable and say, well, maybe I was wrong on that. Right? I like what you said there. That was really cool. And you know, social media takes that out of everybody. People aren't willing to be wrong. People aren't willing to learn online. People just want to argue about nonsense. And so the clickbait nonsense is destroying community. It's not, people aren't on the level. They just want to make money on clicks. Like, it's not helpful to society. So you need to stay away from that stuff. It's going to hurt a lot of people. And instead, use social media as the platform it's meant to be. Not like pretend you got friends, right? Pretend you got influence. No, use it as a springboard, a soundboard, to say, to talk about real culture, right? And so I liked this culture. Here's why. I didn't like this. Here's why. Here's my creative art. Here's what we should be talking about, right? Don't get into this flame war arguments. It's not bringing unity to society. It's just creating division. So it's not helpful to culture whatsoever. It's part of the anti-culture I keep talking about. So it's an anti-culture. So this is just a lesson. You know, like, in order to survive when culture is divided, you need to dig into community, real community. And then your art's going to be better, your curation's going to be better, and you're going to be able to talk about stuff better with respect, right? And your community is going to protect you when things go wrong. So that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you appreciate it. I know Rebecca didn't say much. I think she's gone now. But, and I don't know what's going on there, but love you guys and appreciate you. Oh, you're back.
I'm still here.
I thought maybe something happened.
Oh, I think my mic got muted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Were you hearing what I was able to say, though?
I was listening to you, and I was like,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I don't know at what point my mic got muted, but we'll edit it in later.
Right. We'll edit your voice saying, yes, That's all we need to hear from you, Rebecca. Just do you agree with me or not? No, I mean, yeah. I mean, what did you think about some of that stuff? Because, I mean, you were there for half of this. Like, you know what's going on. It was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, it was, it was the body of Christ.
That's
It
right.
showed up.
Yeah,
and
man.
blessed us. And, yeah, community is real. And
Thank God.
when we have Christ in our hearts and something like this happens, like we come together, and it's not like it's not like just a good feeling or just a good idea. Like, it's just what we do. Like, it's part of being the beloved of God, is that we just do these things because His nature is in us. So, yeah, I loved what you were saying, and loved what you were saying about having a conversation with someone and letting them be right. That was cool. Like, what if I don't share my opinion?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have to share my opinion.
It's like saying the quiet part out loud. It's like people need to hear that, like sometimes you just maybe just think about, being wrong every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like zip it every now and then, like, like be a listener instead of just a talker.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I mean, that's how you really give, Sometimes you can give just a listening ear, and that's like an open heart, really. People see that as an open heart, so,
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, yeah, I mean, Jesse was amazing. We got to see him, and Dave was there for us as well, like in a major way, so appreciate you guys. You know who you are. Love you all. And so where can people find you, Rebecca?
They can find me at Jesus Loves Rebecca on Instagram and Rebecca Loves Jesus on Facebook and YouTube.
Yep.
And where can people find you, Mr. Jon Croft?
Well, sadly, they can find me in the dark corners of Twitter, trying not to comment on their other people's dumb posts. Trying so hard to listen instead of talk. Yeah, so I mean, it's a challenge for me too. I mean, I have to challenge myself to not take that heroin hit, like, and get that social media thing going on. So we're working on it. But yeah, I'm on Twitter on Jon Edward Croft, which is this channel, Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and then I'm on the Media Moses. And you can find me on MediaMoses.com, my writing on there. So I actually talked about this situation today with an article about Candace Owens. So you can read that if you like. And yeah, so love you guys. Thank you. And until next time, stand up for the culture. All right, good night, everybody.